These are the parts that you'll need to make this jig. Though if you want to make it for yourself, I'd recommend going over to our website and downloading the plans for free, which you can find down in the description. Initial credit for this jig design comes from Taku Woodworking, though as you'll see, we refine the design quite a bit as we go and go into a little bit more detail. So you can follow the process that we do to make this jig, but try not to pay too much attention to the dimensions that we use at this stage. To start with, we taped the two support pieces together, so that when we drill holes for the dowel pins, we drill them through both pieces at the same time. To do this though, you do need to drill a perfectly square hole, which is easy enough with a pillar drill, but if you don't have one, I really recommend purchasing a drill guide and taking your time so that you get those holes just right. We'll link a drill guide down in the description in case you don't have one, and it's a really valuable thing to have in the workshop. This part I've named the rocker. It's the part that clamps the router itself as well as allowing the pivoting motion. Here I'm just marking up the location of those dowel pins as well as the location that the bolt will go through to clamp everything together. Again, the pillar drill and a vise makes this job easy, but if you don't have this, you can just do it with a dowel jig or even by hand and a square to keep you in alignment. Drill the first hole for the dowels just about 25mm deep, and in the second one for the bolt you want to drill at least halfway through the wood. You then flip it over and do the same thing. If you do this right, you should then see a clear hole all the way through the part. You then want to remove the stand and any paraphernalia away from the body of the router and measure the diameter across that main section. Hopefully you've got a hole saw that's this size, otherwise you might need to get a little bit creative. We did have a hole saw that was just the right size, but it happened to be the bluntest one we had in the workshop. We then put the part in the saw and cut partially up the center line. The curve of the blade removes just enough material that when we squeeze the two halves together, as you'll see later on, it clamps the router in place nice and secure. We can then cut the top corners off, which is really just for aesthetics, and taper in the bottom, which allows clearance for the bolt. Everything can then be assembled. We sand off any hard edges, we put the dowels into the rocker, we then put washers onto the outside of that, assemble that into the support arms, and put the base on the top. I didn't show you how we made the base because it's quite straightforward, to be honest, but also because we tweak the design later on. Setting the correct router depth is crucial to getting the correct effect with this jig, and something that seems to be glossed over by every other video that we watched. To set the right depth, what we did is we placed spacers underneath the router jig to the correct depth, and then we pushed the router into place until it bottomed out and then tightened it up. We'll go into a bit more detail after we've done some experimentation as to what the best depth is. just spent the past few hours with this jig, having a play with it and trying to find the right settings for it. And it is important to get the right settings or else you kind of get messy results. But when you get those settings right, you do have some really nice results. So the three variables you need to think about are the router bit diameter, the router bit depth, and the setting on the jig itself. In terms of depth, 2 millimeters is the sweet spot that we found. Any deeper than that and you start to put a little bit too much pressure on the jig and the tool, and also don't get the nicest results. So 2 mil is the way to go there. In terms of router bit diameter, these are the router bits that we went for. And I think these are the right router bits. They seem to have various different names, so I'll link this one at various sizes down in the description. The thing with those router bits is as the diameter of the bit increases, the radius on the ends stays the same at 1/4 of an inch. And because it does stay the same, that means the depth of the router bit is consistent regardless of what size router bit you use. And which one to use? We found a 3/4 inch we thought would be really nice on a smaller project, sort of jewelry box size where you want a bit more detail, whereas an 1 1/8 router bit would be better on anything bigger. In terms of the setting on the tools, so we found that the 40 mil setting just doesn't work. You can't fit the router into the tool, so we're going to remove that from the plans. 60 and 80 both look good, and it's personal preference really. This changes the length of the slot that you cut. So at 60 millimeters, you cut a 40 millimeter slot, and at 80 you cut a 50 millimeter slot. So we're going to change these a little bit on the jig. We're going to go 65 and 85 because I think that will look better, and then I think that 65 is going to be our general preference. There were some other things with the jig that we learned. The base we made from varnished MDF because it's what we had lying around, but the varnish was too slippery, which meant the jig tended to move around too much as we were working with it. So a piece of raw MDF is probably the better tool for the job. We also found that these legs splayed out after we'd used them for a while, and that led to the tool wobbling and not a very nice cut. So that jig, that brace on the back there allows full movement but supports everything and keeps everything tight. So I think now we're going to go back to the drawing board, redesign this and remake it all off camera, and then I'll show you what that looks like. And this is the final jig after we redesigned it and rebuilt it. You might first of all notice that it now has a yellow DeWalt router as opposed to the orange Von Hoss router. And that's because we found that the Von Hoss router simply wasn't very powerful, which led to the router bit grabbing and moving the whole jig around. And all of those problems just disappeared as soon as we bolted in the more powerful DeWalt router. On the jig itself, we've tweaked all of the dimensions. We've added an MDF base, we've changed the height of the jig, we've put a slot in the bottom which allows better vision of what we're working with and provide clearance for the router bit, as well as a brace along the back. We did still find, however, that the jig was slipping around a little bit, so we added this sandpaper with some double-sided tape to the base of the jig. It really did add a lot of stability and control as you work. We got some really nice results. We had the random patterns here, which after a bit of practice I think works really well. And we've got the more regimented pattern here. For this you do need a guide to run the jig against, and we have seen guides actually on the jig itself. The problem with that approach is the base then needs to be bigger than your project, which very quickly becomes unmanageable. Instead, if you just have a straight edge and you put it on the project itself, you can then run the jig along that straight edge to achieve that patterned look. And that's it. I hope that's useful. Any questions, ask us down in the description, in the comments. All the products are linked in the description. The plans will be linked in the description. That's completely free. You don't have to sign up for any newsletter or any nonsense like that. Just download the picture, print, and you're good to go. We're going to be using this jig on our next project where we're putting the Naguri pattern on that big panel there, which I think should be a really fun project. So please tune in for that. Give us a like, and until next time, cheerio.